to your local news network, WED News. Today we're coming at you with Newton's 3 laws of motion, and we are ready to let you know what's going on in the world of physics. Let's get to our first law. Let's take a look at the diagram for this one. Now, as you can see, there's a force of gravity always acting on a free body. Now that force is usually acting downwards in a free body diagram, but really the force of gravity is all how you're perceiving it. Now, if you're moving, say, to the right in this diagram, you'll have a force called your applied force. This is the force that's giving you that push. But against your force, especially if you're on a surface such as gravel or sand, you will feel quite a force of friction against you. Now that force usually equals out to the applied force eventually, but depending on your acceleration, you may or may not be feeling some constant forward motion. But there is one force I wouldn't like to leave out, and that's your normal force. Your normal force is the force that's constantly keeping you above what's pulling you down. For an example, if a book is lying flat on a, say, ping pong table or set of stairs, you're going to expect some gravity pulling down on it. But in reality, there's another force acting upon it, the normal force. The mass of an object, measured in kilograms, represents how much of stuff is in something. The inertia of an object is its tendency to stay at rest. For example, your brother's sleeping in his bed. You try to pull out the blanket underneath him, it doesn't come out. I think we all know what that's like. Now that's inertia for you. I think it's about this time that we head over to our 30-second special, a brief documentary on the first law, brought to you by Harold McMiser Pens.
Thank you, Wong. On today's edition of 30 Seconds, we'll be discussing with a fairly close friend of mine about the pressures and forces in life which make us both very happy, yet can cause deep sorrow in our lives. Let's look further into it. So I have to ask, what's it like spending your entire life in equilibrium with equal forces acting on you at all times? So during a day's work, your net force depends on the pressure built up by the bricks above you and gravity pushing them downward, yet also the net force pushing you back upward. Very interesting, thank you. Brick, you always get me. Well folks, that's just about all the time we have tonight here on 30 Seconds. Back to you, Mom.
Okay, I'll let them know. Breaking news, America. I've just received a report that outside of our studio, there are 2 street racers perfectly exhibiting the second law of motion.
Get race. 3, 2, 1.
Boy, you know why I pulled you over?
No.
Sir, you were breaking Newton's second law of motion. You know what that is?
No, sir.
Your acceleration was absolutely inappropriate. Were you street racing?
No.
Are you familiar with the equation F equals ma? Are you also familiar with acceleration equals force divided by mass? Well, I don't know if you were paying attention when you're driving back there, but it seems that your force was quite high while your mass is relatively low in comparison to this guy.
It was.
Yeah, so would you say that your acceleration was greater because you had less mass and equal force?
It was.
Alright. Well, I'm gonna let you off easy today, but
Thank you.
watch it! Alright.
Good afternoon, America. We're here live today with our police correspondent, Officer Snicklefritz, and we're about to talk to you about the second law of physics. Now,
Started.
we've been hearing some talk lately about some inverse and direct proportions.
That's right. Clear demonstrations right here with these fellas speeding.
Okay. Now, I noticed they had very similar accelerations, if not exact. But what's the difference in between the forces?
Oh, you see, the main difference here that separates these two violators is the mass that is involved. See,
Okay.
there's an inverse proportion between the mass and acceleration. See, the mass of this vehicle is quite considerable. However, the
can see that.
acceleration in return is lower, and the mass of this car is lower, and thus the acceleration is greater.
Both equaling the same force.
No, absolutely.
Well,
Still breaking the law, though.
can't be breaking laws, but you won't be, because it's hard to break the laws of motion.
So, is there any other questions I can clarify on the job today?
Absolutely. Thank you, by the way, Officer Snicklefritz, for your time here.
Any day.
But I believe our viewers have a question in regards to when the mass stays constant, what is the result of a changing acceleration?
Well, you see, when there's greater force, there's a direct relationship so that there's greater acceleration, and vice versa, so that with greater acceleration comes greater force. And that's how I catch these boys speeding every day.
Well, I think that about wraps it up. Thanks for that, guys. And now it's time to join our sports anchor, Matt Lordy, for our weekly athlete profile.
Thanks, Wong. I'm Matt Lordy here, reporting from Sochi with the 2014 very prestigious Triple T table tennis tournament. Here with the recent 50 straight championship winner, Heinrich goon'ed. We're going to analyze the physics behind his recent success. So Heinrich, I have to ask, how have you been so successful over the past few years?
I train very hard and I hit ball very hard.
So what are the dynamics behind your volley?
Well, ping pong is very simple game. You must know that when I hit ball hits me. But I have greater force because I am very powerful. When I hit the ball goes that way.
So what you're trying to say is Newton's third law?
Is ping pong.
That concludes our physics sports section. Serving it back to you, Wong.
That about wraps it up for us here at WEE Studios. Thanks, America, and remember, have a good night.